Very good. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of Council of the District of Sechelt. It is 7 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order. Council, any concerns on the agenda, conflicts? I know we have Councillor Rowe online. And we're live. Council, so if no amendments, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda. Seconded, all in favor? Adopted. And then without further ado, I won't read the whole proclamation, but I will say it's my privilege as mayor to recognize and honor those who strengthen our community through acts of selfless service and to encourage all residents to explore the rewarding experience of volunteering. And I therefore proclaim April 18th, 2026 as Volunteer Day in the District of Sechelt. And with thanks to the many, many volunteers who really do make this community so special. And I believe hiding in the back, we have Diana Mumford, who did want to offer a couple of comments. I know there's a big event with, am I preempting what you're going to tell us? Okay, April 18th.
That's part of it, yes.
Great.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, Michael would like to be here, but he has family obligations, so I'm in his place. And we are really working towards a better example of having volunteers out there. I think people forget what volunteers do in our community. So I'd like to really promote all the volunteers that we have. And there's a resolution that's gone through the United Nations General Assembly, which has proclaimed 2026 as the International Year of Volunteers for Sustainable Development, thereby promoting and recognizing volunteerism as a significant force for sustainable development. Volunteering means giving time, skills, and energy freely to benefit others without pay. There are an estimated 1 billion volunteers worldwide, which is a pretty amazing number. About 70% volunteer informally, while 30% engage through formal organizations. Volunteers are resilient and adaptable. You have to be. Volunteering has long been a part of human society and is embedded in traditions and values across cultures. It fosters solidarity, civic engagement, and a sense of belonging. Volunteering is for everyone of all ages, genders, backgrounds, and abilities. So what are the challenges of volunteering? Because what is happening is, according to Statistics Canada, formal volunteering rates have declined significantly, with formal volunteering dropping from 41% in 2018 to 32% in 2023, with hours worked falling by 28%. Why the drop? The high cost of living and inflation, and people are having to prioritize their work time over volunteering. COVID-19 did a real damage to volunteering. People had to go away and they're not returning in the same numbers. And also many organizations have cut volunteer manager positions, which then reduces the capacity to recruit. The impacts on nonprofits with this decrease, 45 to 65% of Canadian charities are not having enough volunteers to meet their needs. Besides the benefits to nonprofits, what about for the volunteers? And I think there's a whole lot of volunteers behind me tonight. Numerous studies have shown volunteering increases a person's mental and physical well-being as well as life satisfaction. I attest to that very wholeheartedly. There was a comment that I was reading on Volunteer BC, and it said, what if volunteers simply did not show up for a day, a week, or a month? What would our cities, towns, and country look like? What would our hospitals or schools look like? What basic needs would not be met? And I think there was a handout for the council, and there is a 4-page list of just a very few of the volunteer activities that happen in our community in Sechelt. and the range is so significant. And I think I really appreciate that volunteering is being recognized and that we get a week of where we say, good for you, and then hopefully the rest will step forward and help for the rest of the year. So I think volunteering do make a heart of this community.
Very
Thank you.
good. Thank you, Diana. Questions, Councillor Shepherd?
Yeah, through the chair, thanks very much, Diana. It's such a critical part of this community. And I think we're sort of blessed with a lot of volunteers. I'll throw it a challenge, though. The volunteer fair last year, I found didn't actually attract very many people. There were a lot of volunteer organizations there and very few people walking through. So I thought, and yet, you know, for instance, I volunteer for the library. They have lots of volunteers. So I don't know if it's somehow we have to get more creative in how we get people to volunteer. And for instance, I'm on the East Porpoise Bay, you know, we clean up Seashell Inlet Road. They're really struggling to find people. So I
think-
don't know how to go at it. Thank you.
I think that the volunteer fair, just the title of volunteer scared people. They felt they were going to get hooked in. And so this year it's called Community Connections, and it's celebrating the connections we have within our community of Seashell. And hopefully then we can hook them in to being volunteers. And I think we're all, as we all know, we're all getting older. And so it is more of a challenge to get people to be able to do that. But I personally find it such a rewarding opportunity. The interesting people I meet on my things that I do I think it's more benefit for me than what I'm giving back. So I really encourage anybody, and I think we need to get our young people, and a really good group to highlight for that would be the Interact kids that I've met that are the young Rotary kids. And they do some amazing things in our community. And if we can get our young people understanding the value of supporting their community by volunteering, I think we would all benefit.
Great.
So, but I know what you're saying. We had great networking going on within the group there.
Yeah. Great. Well, anything else, Council? Your microphone up?
Through the chair,
Please.
I want to just recognize this as well, to have this as a volunteer week. First of all, I want to recognize the woman in front of us, Diana, as Mumford is one of the busiest volunteers in this community. And I want to thank you so much for everything that you do. And to have you give leadership to this makes so much sense, and because your heart and passion is in this, and thank you for that. I come from a 25 years with the YMCA. I know what it's like to be in a volunteer-driven organization, and you're right, it ebbs and flows. But I will say that the impact that a volunteer has on any organization is incredible. It is rewarding, you mentioned that, and also the opportunity as an opportunity to be a social hub and to meet new people. It's incredible. So I want to thank you so much, and so pleased that we are acknowledging this.
Thank you. And I think we are very lucky in Seashell.
Yep. And so let's end with a quick plug. April 18th,
Yes.
11 o'clock at this.
10
10?
till
I think it's
3,
10.
I believe
10
it's
till
10 till
3.
3,
Yeah.
the Community Connections Fair at the Seashell Seniors Activity Center. And come and connect with your community and sign up for a few volunteer positions. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana, very much. All right, Council. We'll move on then to item 5.1, which I think a bunch of the people in the gallery are interested in. Just a wild guess. So we have Maria Danish with us, and Maria, if you want to come up and I guess we've got your report, so we'll look for any clarifications or updates. And don't forget to turn on the microphone, please.
Good evening. Hello. Bring this a little closer. Okay. Good evening, Mayor Henderson and council members. I am here to present the report on the 2026 Community Investment Program grants, which support local initiatives that enhance community development and quality of life. The program's purpose recognizes the vital role nonprofit and charitable organizations play in ensuring the social, cultural, and environmental well-being of the local community. Objectives include extending the district's reach of programs and services we provide, supporting civic engagement, and enhancing the residents' quality of life. To be eligible for the program grant, applicants must be a registered charity and/or a registered nonprofit whose program directly benefits the Sechelt community and aligns with the categories of either arts, culture, and recreation, or social and environmental or community development. The Grant Review Committee evaluates each application based on several criteria, including evidence of community need, the potential benefit to residents, public accessibility, and funding from other sources. The Grant Review Committee is 5 members. It includes a member of council and 4 community volunteers. This year, 1 community member unexpectedly withdrew, and adjudications moved forward with 3 community volunteers. Each committee member has considerable knowledge of nonprofits and grants to review the applications and make funding recommendations. The committee also provides input on the program policy and procedures. I would like to take a moment to thank Councillor Bell and each of the committee members for volunteering their time and providing valuable feedback in support of this program. Summary of grants. So for this year, 24 applications were received with funding requests of up to $246,212. The grant budget of $143,450 was distributed to 22 organizations for either a multi-year or an annual grant. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Council, any follow-up? Anything? Councillor Shepherd, thank you.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendations on page 6 and 7 to start the.
All right, thank
Discussion.
you. Seconded. All right, anybody questions or comments? Councillor Toth, please.
Thank you. And I guess it's more a observation than anything, because the dollar amount that's here on the page, I'm looking at item 4.4, which is $1,000 to the Gibson's Public Art Gallery. It's only $1,000, but at the same time, I'm disappointed that the town of Gibson's doesn't contribute anything to the Gibson's Public Art Gallery. And here we are having to pick up the slack for organizations on the Sunshine Coast. I think this came up last year because I think there was another Gibson's organization that sought some funding. But I think it's something that we need to continue to advocate for with our counterparts to reinstate some sort of CIP program down the other end of the coast. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Councillor Inkster, please.
Yeah, thank you. One thing that we may want to do, and I know that we do it with a number of the people that receive funding from us, is we do the opportunity to do a public event with them with photographs. It would be interesting if we could be sort of politically active on that issue that you reference and make sure that that group comes to take a picture of the district of Sechelt giving money to a Gibson's event. So I would certainly, I mean, we can complain all we want and wonder why they don't do it, but if they don't know they're not doing it, or they recognize that we've stepped up, if I could encourage whoever organizes that to hopefully get that group to come and get a picture with us, that would be a good creative way to remind other jurisdictions that the District of Sechelt often steps up to help the Sunshine Coast. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Councillor Inkster. Bring your phone, camera. Councillor McLaughlin, please.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I see a very long list of activities we contribute to, and the amounts really are not very big per unit. But I'm thinking that some of the taxpayers I talk to are concerned that taxes are going up. Everything's adding up, and we're celebrating our 70th birthday, and I'm thinking, maybe it's time we look at maybe how we can do things a little differently so that going forward, we have something that might be a little more sustainable in a different way. And I was just thinking that maybe what we could do is see if residents from wherever, maybe even from Gibson's, want to contribute as a tax donation to the District of Sechelt for these programs. I think we could do that if we wanted to, so that people can directly contribute rather than all of us paying tax on it. And you might find that you actually get more money for things, and you might get new things coming where there is an interest. And you might find, well, maybe some things might need some money. So I'm just wondering if we could kind of take an approach where we're a little more proactive in the funding and finding another way to get funding through just supporting the District of Sechelt through something like that. And then also maybe easing the burden, tax burden, somewhat on people that really don't see the value in all this. But I think overall, we do see the value, but we just need to find innovative ways to help support it. So I was just thinking of an idea like that. So I'm supportive of 2026, but I wonder for 2027 and some of the other years, if we could see if we could wrangle something like that. Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, through the chair, many thanks to Councillor Bell for the effort put into this. There's so much demand for the money. It's so difficult to parse out how much to allot to people. But I had the same question as Councillor Toth when I saw Roberts Creek Community Association. So I wonder if I could toss that out. And sorry, I'm sure it came up last year, but why do we contribute to their association?
Ms. Danish?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair. That is a great question. I think if I can recall from the committee and the organization and the information that was coming forward, it was supporting different aspects of it. And so recognizing that the work that these other organizations do outside of Sechelt still contribute to our community. We have community members that still go out there, that these bring value added across the coast, not just to Sechelt itself. And so thinking about these organizations from an arts perspective or a culture perspective, I think that's really what the committee was looking for. And, wanting to offer a little bit of support, not full support, but a little bit just to keep these organizations moving forward and offering some diversity in what's out there for our community to experience. That helps.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That would be me. Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Bell?
Through the chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Shepherd for your recognition of being on the chair. It's a great privilege, being a chair of this committee. It's a great privilege, and I really enjoyed it. And this will be my last year, so I want to say good luck to the future and whatever happens. But as I say, it's a real privilege to be a part of this group. It's probably one of the most difficult jobs I have in terms of, one of my roles, because it's difficult to be able to support everyone that applies. And I will say that everyone deserves to be, the recognition through funding. And I just want everyone to know that did apply and did not get funding, to know that these decisions are not easy and we don't take them lightly. I want to congratulate everyone that did receive funding and look forward to continued good work that you do. And I want to give very special recognition and thank you to the tremendous leadership of Maria, who is District of Sechelt staff and does an amazing job of this. Her heart and passion is in this every second. And to Dave Clark, who's in the with us today. He's one of our volunteers, new volunteers this year. And we had the great privilege of having someone with amazing experience from Whistler who has done this in the past. So you contributed immensely, and I want to thank you for your knowledge and for your time. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Bell. All right, we have a motion in front of us. I don't see any other hands up, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you very much, Ms. Danish. Nice to see you. Council, we can then go to 5.2, which is the lease for the airport land and building Olson Electric. Mr. Douglas?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this lease has been in front of us a couple times, and we've been able to come to terms with council and to the leasee, sorry. And just one comment, there's two typos, and one in the report and one in the agreement. The date should be going till March 31st, 2033, not 32. I think we were thinking of the year end, like December to January, if something ends in
So 10 years.
end of December, it's a
Yep.
year back. So
So.
sorry for that
So
error.
they,
on that.
two places, the dates change from 32 to 33.
Yes.
Great. So how does that, I guess, in terms of our motions, I guess there's one change. No, not in the actual motion. All right. Counselor Toth, please. Oh,
Your worship, we could add a clause at the end of the staff recommendation, and that the error on the date in the modification agreement be corrected to end in 2033 instead of 2032.
so when we get to the, no, that's part of the original recommendation. Okay. Okay, so we need to modify the modification agreement first. So we get a.
Council could put the staff recommendation on the floor and
Yep.
add that the correction be made to
All
the
right,
modification
within that.
agreement.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation on page 24 with the amendments that
Or
Praveen
perhaps,
mentioned.
yeah, great. I see a second, couple of seconds. Okay, are there any other points, folks? Please, sorry, Council McLaughlin.
Thank you. Thank you through the chair. I'm just concerned about a long-term lease for the airport like this. And I do believe we put some of our capital planning money into these buildings. Now, I don't really have, I'm not really comfortable with such a long-term lease. I know some people, I think, from the airport committee had a lot of ideas about how we could do things quite differently at the airport. Maybe they didn't come through in the plan, but I think that it's an asset that we need some flexibility with, and this that kind of takes away that flexibility. We're always saying we need more industrial and commercial taxpayers, and yet here we are giving our airport land for what I think is a very good deal for them, but doesn't really help our tax base. So I'd like to see actual airport turned into being for commercial flights. I think this has been a longstanding thing, even from before when the mayor was the previous mayor. And yet nothing much has changed. So I know it's a difficult process to get an airport up to standard and all that, but I think we're losing an opportunity by doing this. And it does bring in some income, but there's opportunity cost as well, which I am not comfortable with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to clarify, this is before us as a lease amendment in terms of the resetting the rent, which is the rent after a reduction for previous expenses. But the rent that this is based on in the proposal, and I stand to be corrected, Mr. Douglas, but the rent as proposed is the estimated fair market value rent. So, this is a good deal or a special deal. I think I would respectfully say that's not accurate. And the second thing is the current lease does have the 2 10-year terms. So whether we want to take your comments into consideration for other projects is entirely appropriate, but the second term is not part of is not something we're able to address at this point. So Councillor Toth and then Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I understand where Councillor McLaughlin's coming from, and I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of, or the concern around tying up a particular property when we're talking about what we might want to do at the airport. I guess the only comment that I would make counter to that, you know, of this 10-year term, we're basically already a third of the way through it if we approve it, because it's retroactive to 2023. So are we going to be in a position where we need that land in that location desperately for something at the airport within 6 years? I don't think so, but I don't have a crystal ball or I wouldn't be sitting here. So I'm supportive of this moving forward, sort of as an interim measure. This does generate some revenue that stays with the airport. They are going to be paying, you know, industrial or commercial taxation rates on the land. So that's, you know, revenue that we are receiving in for this. So, you know, could we be getting more for it? Maybe. Did they invest a lot of money in that building when they took it over? Yes. And I think this is sort of the best of all worlds at the moment. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Inkster.
As has been spoken to, we're 2/3 of the way through this lease, basically. There are a number of other lands at the airport that could be considered for development indoor lease other than this one. This isn't our only building up there. This isn't our only business opportunity up there. As well, too, businesses who, it's a form of economic development to aid businesses to find not only buildings that are difficult to find, but also buildings that are large enough to help their business. Business leases that go on for a number of years are based on the predictability to businesses of their costs going forward. A business would not invest in a building and or sign a lease for anything less than 10 years in most cases, because they have to have predictability for not only the delivery of their service of their business, but the predictability of costs of providing their services. So that's why I'm okay with this as we work with business to continue to provide economic development jobs for our community. It was also good to hear that there's more council members than a couple that included Councillor Shepherd that are in the previous statements that are into supporting airport development. As Councillor McLaughlin indicated, I didn't know she was a big supporter of airport development. That's good, because that then means we have more people at the council table that want to spend taxpayers' dollars on that development as we move forward, because it doesn't happen without that kind of commitment. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, thanks to the chair. Yeah, being on the Airport Development Committee, Councillor McLaughlin's correct. You know, if that committee would love to see that parcel of land wrapped into a airport-focused use. But as Councillor Toss mentioned, we have no pressing flight-related use for it, or that demand would have come up to council much earlier in the process. So, you know, we're looking at this long-term. I think it's rather unique that it's a building lease. It's not just a sort of a base land lease. So as Councillor Toth mentioned, money's being put in by the tenant into the building. We get a market rental rate for it. So it's a great revenue stream, and hopefully we can use that for airport-related uses. Thanks.
Okay. Council, we have a recommendation as on page 24 with the addition of the amended wording to make it 2033 instead of 2032. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councilor McLaughlin is opposed. The motion carries. Right, Council, we can then go to page 30, and this is the Urban Forest Plan grant application. Oh, look who's appeared on the screen. Good evening, Ms. Stepovich. Anything you want to add to your report? Good, thank you. Councillor Shepherd?
I'll move the recommendations on page 30.
Okay. Second? Yep, second. Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Discussion? Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, thanks. Always glad to see us look for alternative sources other than think there was a couple groups that we used to get money from. Not sure if they've been mentioned. We used to get money from, I can't remember it at the time. Now, we used to get money for an urban forestry program, $10,000 to $20,000. It was part of it. You were part of it last term before. There was a lot of money for that. So I'm really supportive of a plan that contributes to getting, as long as we look at deciduous trees in these plans, we got to get away from the evergreens and look at deciduous trees, because not only are they good for shade going forward, but they're also, one thing that people don't realize is trees are really good for water retention. So with climate change, we're having heat events. Trees are good for shade. With climate change, we're having wet winters. Trees are good for eating up and or helping direct properly water in our municipality. I think we do a good job of ditching, but I think this helps really with the amount of water that comes down out of the sky. The last couple of days as an example, and a few weeks ago with the flooding that happens in different areas of BC. So glad to see a tree program, and I'm certainly supportive of this action. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, urban trees are important. And this is sort of one reason why when we have a greenfield site or a development site where we have solid trees, that I don't like to see the site cleared for development, because getting that many trees is going to be more than anything we could ever try and get a grant for. But that being said, we still need to build our urban forest, to put trees near where people live so that they can find shade in the heat and get outside and still enjoy the hot weather. So it's really critical. This is a grant, but I don't even think we need a grant to go forward. I don't like things that we do to be just driven by grants. Because there's a grant, we're going to do this. But I like to see that it's something that is a priority for council, that the planners see it as a very important focus, and that I know our planners aren't just planners, they can be doers. So I know they can actually build their own plan. And I know Gibson's has a very good plan as well. So we could piggyback on their knowledge and their expertise. So we have a good start, I think. So I'm supportive of the grant, but I really want us to think about the trees that we have and to find ways to protect them and find ways to enhance our urban development areas so that we bring some greenery back instead of, asphalt and roofs and leave people, especially in multifamily dwellings, feeling like they're stuck in a heat wave. So I think we can get a lot of advantage out of this, but I encourage, no matter what, for our planners to start with this work as soon as they can. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Anything else, folks? We have a motion in front of us to support the grant application as presented on page 30. I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried, unanimous. Okay, thank you, Council. Then we go to page 34. Yes, 34. By the way, I neglected to mention at the beginning, but I know Council was on track. We're dealing with the amended agenda that was circulated yesterday. So item 5.4 is the new item that has come to us for consideration. And Mr. Hall, I see you here. Is there anything you want to add to this, or? No. Beg your pardon, I've gone to the wrong, because of this, I did half of my review on the old agenda and half on the new.
Thank you.
Ms. Lee, please.
Thank you. So nothing really to add to the report. We just wanted to flag that one of the weekends requested in the noise bylaw variance was in fact the Easter weekend. So that could be considered differently if council chooses.
Okay, great. I mean, I guess that to pick up on that, so the dates are up to us, but is that fair?
That's correct. So you could elect to choose, approve all of the dates or some of the dates or none of the dates would be all options.
Okay.
So you could exclude Easter weekend or include it if.
Right, and the reason this is before us is they are here, so it'll save money.
That's correct. So both the contractor and the archaeologist and the consultant are all here now, which is why it was, they have it
Mhm.
scheduled for this weekend, or ideally for this weekend, given that Saturday is not included in the noise bylaw, so they would be working Saturday regardless.
They would be?
Yes.
Yes, I see. Okay, thank you for the clarification, Counselor Inkster.
Yeah, this is, every once in a while, this comes up with this anomaly of sort of the Seashell community sharing a community with Shell. We actually, I think the numbers of people that would be affected would actually be in a neighborhood jurisdiction in terms of the noise rather than in Seashell. There's not a lot of houses in that area, mostly businesses. So it's just interesting that those, I'm probably thinking that they didn't actually consult and or let that group know that there would be an effect on the large apartment buildings in the bottom corner with the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the Arbutus development. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Counselor Toth?
Thank you. Which, following on that, I guess my question is, yes, it's taking place in the district of Seashell. Is there any requirement to seek approval or anything like that from the Seashell Nation? Given that, they really are going to be the only residential properties affected by this. I'm generally supportive of the dates that are being here because it is primarily a commercial area, but I also don't want to unduly impact a neighbor that hasn't actually been consulted.
Okay, so maybe can we test the waters? Does anybody want to make a motion? Okay, Counselor Shepherd?
Yeah, I'll make the motion on page 34.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Because I'll second that discussion. And I'll speak to it. I did look at this chart fairly carefully, and the residence is, if I read it correctly, about 125 meters away. Do we have any sense, is this impact drilling or? Because I know well drilling, for example, doesn't tend to have much of an impact.
It's my understanding that it will be fairly noisy during the drilling process. They're also doing some road repairs and different excavation work as well, but the drilling itself, I understand to be fairly noisy. Just for reference, in the previous noise bylaw variation, we notified at 100 meters, and we're asking in this case 150, just to ensure we capture that residential structure. But it's less populated in that area than
Right.
some other areas.
Okay, but I think the noise is from the machines they use
That-
as opposed to, the pounding on in the ground.
Yeah, I'm not
Borehole.
100% certain how they're drilling the boreholes, whether there's pounding or drilling sounds, but I do understand to be quite noisy.
Okay, thank you. Council, other thoughts? A motion in front of us, so if not, nothing else to contribute, I will call the question. All in favor? Carried. Oops, please, yes, please.
Thank you. I'm actually going to make another suggestion. I recognize that's this weekend, but I'd
Mhm.
also like to make a motion to refer this to the Seashell Nation for information.
Okay, is there a seconder? Okay, seconded. Any discussion? In favor? Carried. Thank you for that, Counselor Toth. Okay, so then we can go to 6.1, which is, now we can ask Mr. Hall to come and talk to us. So this is regarding Binnacle, and we start on page 37. Mr. Hall? Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have the zoning amendment bylaw here for 3 readings. I guess the report pretty much covers everything. The only thing I would maybe bring your attention to 2 items is, so typically when we have a rezoning, council still has its community amenity contribution policy that was adopted a number of years ago that looks at sort of the unit types and having a cash value for each unit type. So in past, we've had rezonings where we're looking at the number of units proposed and proposing a CAC contribution based on that. That is noted in the report. The policy also does talk about situations where we might want to look at either a mix of cash and other amenities or no cash and something else entirely. And that's kind of the case here where we have both an opportunity and maybe a desire to acquire more parkland than we would get at the subdivision stage. And that would be more beneficial than getting the cash amount for the CAC policy. And given the applicants, discussions with the applicants where they are in terms of, the proposed number of lots and the loss of a potential lot versus the CAC amount, we've kind of come to a potential agreement where they'd be willing to give over the additional park dedication required in exchange for not having to pay the CAC. So that's kind of what's outlined in the report. Council is free to propose alternatives. And then the other piece too, just to keep in mind is, the site plan that's kind of attached to the proposal is been through a number of iterations and I guess in terms of the rear lane, like that's direction that has come from district staff in terms of how the property could develop and the opportunities that the lane gives in terms of, the Reef Road extension that would front the property is kind of meant to be a more of a collector road and have active transportation on it. So by having the rear lane, that offers us the opportunity to remove any driveways from the Reef Road access and have vehicle access from the rear lane only. It also allows the lots that currently front Binnacle to have access to this new lane, which could help with the potential redevelopment for those properties as well. So that's something that the applicant has proposed in response to staff direction to incorporate a lane into the site plan.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Councillor Tough, please.
Thank you. I have a number of questions, but they're mostly little nitpicky things. But one question I do have that I think is fairly core, fundamental. Could we use lot 11 for affordable housing? Does it have to be committed as parkland? And is that a decision that we would need to make now? Or is that a decision that could be made further down the road? I don't want to slow the process down, sending it back to find out and, ask the Affordable Housing Society if they're interested or anything like that. But I look at that parcel and I think we've already got some small homes being proposed there. That's a great opportunity to get a little bit of affordable housing dedicated in that spot. So just a curiosity for staff. Thanks.
Okay, can I add on to that before you answer, Mr. Hall? These are all fairly small units, so they'll be less expensive. Are they going to be rentals or freehold sale, or do we know? So both parts, if you could.
The lots themselves range in size from 300 to 350 square meters. If we're looking at kind of lots
The land
1 to
lot-
10, yeah, the land area. So by extension, yeah, the building sites would be correspondingly smaller. I mean, the applicants, the zoning would allow them, both the existing zone and the proposed zone would allow them to do the up to 4 units, so they could stick a quadplex on each of these lots, assuming they can make the parking work. But the applicants do have a different vision in mind. That's why they've kind of proposed fewer units, the sort of the 2 to 3 on each of the lots. In terms of the rental versus ownership, I can't really speak to that. I think it's probably not looking to be rental, but obviously having multiple buildings on site might offer the ability for an owner to rent out some of the accessory units depending on how it's laid out.
Okay, no, fair comment. We don't know, and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily our place to
Yeah.
know at this stage.
To Councillor Toth's question, I don't think it has to be settled tonight. I mean, right now, I guess we're certainly if the land was dedicated entirely as park, that poses some challenges for us to use it for non-park purposes. But at this moment, it's more just about the potential of acquiring this land to be owned by the district. Right now it's proposed entirely as park, but as we go through the rezoning and future purposes, we could decide to have some of it dedicated as an actual titled lot instead, but still owned by us, but
No, right, okay. Okay, is that okay for now, or do you want to follow up?
Just, I guess as a follow-up, yeah, as if we're not being sort of forced down a certain road today, like I your Councillor McLaughlin here telling me, it's park dedication is what it says in the report. And so I think, the mechanism by which we acquire the lot, as long as we're, in compliance with everything, I'm not too fussed about, but I don't want us to necessarily lock that in today as park for the next 1,000 years, because all it's gonna be is a Christmas tree disposal lot for the next 20 years. I do want us to have a look at whether there's an opportunity, either through Habitat or through the Affordable Housing Society, to see if there's an opportunity to jump on this. We don't have a lot of land for housing, and it's not a big lot, but it is something that we don't have right now. So I'll leave it there for the
Yeah,
moment.
thank you. Yeah, I like where you're going. Councillor McLaughlin?
Yes, thank you through the chair. I did attend a Seashelt Village Association AGM, and at that time on Sunday, they hadn't heard about this development. So for some reason, they then followed up and found that apparently it was sent, but they didn't somehow seem to know about it and receive it. So I think that is a concern, because I think this site, especially if you look in the context of the aerial photo, it is a greenfield site. It's not it's not an area that's within a bunch of development. There's development on one side, and on the other side, there's no real neighborhood plan, and there's just solid trees. So it sounds like that we are confirming that Reed Road will be, Reef Road will be a collector road. So that is quite an impact in the community. So I think there needs to be some more community planning around here before we really know what is appropriate for the site. The current zoning allows them to build like 6 lots with 4plexes on them, which is already a lot for the community to swallow in a way, because we haven't really seen it. We don't really do that yet. But to have this many lots, small lots carved in there, I think is not appropriate. And what also concerns me is when we do a lot of these projects, developers will buy a property for 600,000, and then they won't really develop anything. They'll get it rezoned and then try and flip it for tens of millions of dollars. So I don't feel
Councillor
that
McLaughlin,
is.
Stay focused on this.
Yeah, so that's another worry I have with this, as we have had happen with numerous projects. We've rezoned intensely under the idea of SHMU while I've been here. So I think there's just too many issues. I think just leaving the current zoning the way it is sufficient. If they want to subdivide it and sell it off, which sounds like what the developer's planning. I didn't get too caught up in all the drawings, because in the report it says this is just an illustration. It's not necessarily what will be built. So what will be built, it worries me, and I don't think it's appropriate density given the location. And I'm concerned that the residents there and the social housing project there is just not aware of what it will cause. So I would rather see it part of a neighborhood plan. Who knows what could be there? Maybe a daycare could be there. Maybe a whole social housing development could be there. Maybe some seniors housing could be there. I don't know. But if it's going to be a collector road, it has a lot of potential. But developing it this way on an ad hoc basis with so much intense zoning that hasn't been tested here. We haven't had little stratas like that here where a micro home is divvied up into 4 units and then stratified. I just find it's way too far-fetched and not really appropriate for this community. This is not the middle of Vancouver or something, right?
Okay.
This is a
Thank
different
you.
place and doesn't fit with the spirit of the place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Inkster?
Yeah, just thank you, through you, just to staff, to ask a couple of questions about the road, the Reed Road, I guess that is what we're talking about. Reed, is it?
Reed.
Yeah, Reef, yeah. Lots of RE roads on the Sunshine Coast. I look at the standard of the road. I wonder if it's full road or half road. That would be my question through to staff, because we're only obviously developing the one side. Just a question through to you, and in a second, if they can answer that, would be helpful. Thanks. The other piece is that I do like the ideas where we look at opportunities to do district-led and planned intensive housing in order to house not only those that need to have affordability issues, but also our workforce. So if we can do that, this is an opportunity, as Councillor Toth mentioned. The way I would propose to look at that with a visionary look to the future and parkland is ask through, once again, through you to staff, if in fact there's a predictability and or a plan in front of them from other proposals nearby with development proposals that would then trigger parkland. Because what we could do as a municipality is look to these opportunities wherever there are to have intensive housing, but make sure that in future developments, there's a slightly larger park component. And that's what I see in that area. So I'm not sure on those two questions if staff have any answers, but hopefully they do in order to support. I do like it as it sits. It seems similar to the lots nearby, these ones, but I do think we did need to do more intensive housing. I'm surprised that it's in the village discussion. It's up over the hills. So anyway, I mean, that's a confusion that I have as to why other community associations don't have other lands attached to them. Nevertheless, thanks.
Okay. So I guess one half road.
Yeah, so there's an existing 10-meter wide dedication coming from the Reef and Trail intersection going down here. So yeah, as part of this subdivision, they'd be building out a 2-lane road within that 10-meter dedication. So it would still be a functional 2-lane road built to the standard, but the property to the west that is would need to give up the next 10 meters to fully complete the road. But for now, it would still be a 2-way road.
In road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Topographically, it seems like a challenge.
It's uphill.
Yeah, it's if anybody's been up there from council and or the community, it's a very difficult section to develop a road in from just the surface that's there now.
Okay, thank you. The second part, which I think we answered. Well,
No.
so where is the boundary for Seashell Village? Because I had that question.
I believe it goes to Trail Avenue, maybe just a bit above. So this is right at the edge, but it's still just within the Downtown Village Association area.
Interesting. Okay, because I don't think they have one, but West Porpoise Bay would be beyond that then. No, and then Shora.
Yeah, Shore is kind of a small thing, and there is no larger
Yeah.
West Porpoise Bay Association. So
Just repeat
Please,
that then?
yes, please.
Okay. Because I thought you were shepherding the questions that I had, but no problem. The question that I had, my second question was, when we make decisions as a municipality to make changes to existing bylaws, such as parkland for needed housing, what we need to do looking forward in proper planning is look forward to neighboring developments and or pieces of land to make sure that there's parkland near to that subdivision. And obviously our planning staff is professional enough to keep that in mind, but certainly something I support. So do they see or have they received nearby proposals for land development? And if they do, I hope they consider putting the parkland closer to the Binnacle piece than to put it somewhere else. Thanks.
I mean, I guess that's part of the rationale for citing even the small portion of park where it is, because it could be expanded into that southern lot that is owned by a larger holding company that currently has no plans, but that would be the logical extension of that area, whether or not we just have the 5% or we have the full 12%. That's the nearest developable piece. In terms of active applications, there's stuff further up north on Reef Road, but nothing particularly close by. So the southern area is kind of the park area to expand into.
Okay, well, for now. Councillor Shepherd?
Yeah, through the chair. I'm generally in support of the application or the recommendations. I'm supportive of Councillor Toth's idea about taking that land for, using it for land for future sort of subsidized housing, which we desperately need. But if I could pick up on a point Councillor McLaughlin raised, my concern is the 3 readings. We have every right to do 3 readings for it right now. But my question for Mr. Hall, we give 3 readings based on a concept plan. And what happens is it possible that the developer comes back to you and says, change my mind, I want to do 2 super huge houses on it. So the concept has changed dramatically from what council's approved. Is that possible? Does it come back to council? Or what?
Yes.
We're sort of making an approval based on a concept plan only. So,
Based on the density, I think, and please, Mr. Hall.
Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously the applicants are seeking the rezoning primarily to get a smaller minimum lot size so they can create more lots. So in that sense, because, developing this property, they have to extend Reef Road along the frontage. That's part of the default requirement. We've required them to create this rear lane. So there's a lot of infrastructure that they have to put in to access and service this property. So it's unlikely that they're going to turn around and try to do fewer lots. Now, obviously, if they just decided to split the property into 2, the subdivision bylaw wouldn't allow us to require them to build out absolutely everything, but we'd still have that in mind and try to secure that future potential anyway. In terms of the rezoning, once it's adopted, they have to come back to us for subdivision for development permit. Based on the development permit area 8, despite council making some delegated authority changes recently, this is still a large enough subdivision that would have to come back to council for approval. It's not, it would be beyond the delegated authority scope. So you would see that piece at least.
Okay, thanks. Councillor McLaughlin, please.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Just a couple of questions. I'm wondering if an architect is required for this, because when you think there could be 44 units in there and it's quite complicated, you'd want to have an architect, at least somebody who is an expert in urban design. And I can't think of a better time than when you're doing something that's new and unique. And also, I'm wondering when the development cost charges will be paid. Will they be paid at subdivision, at stratification? Since we haven't really dealt with one of these before in practice, I wonder when those would be payable. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hall.
In terms of the architect, I'd have to defer to the building department. I don't think, even if they're doing a 3-story quadplex, I don't think the building code requires an architect for that. But it's certainly a valuable thing to have when they're kind of doing a larger scale plan. In terms of development cost charges, there definitely would be DCCs payable at the time of subdivision. So they'd be paying based on the number of new lots. So if they're doing, say, the 10-lot proposal, there's an existing lot, they're creating 9 new lots, so they'd be paying 9 DCCs. At that time, depending on the number of dwelling units they construct on each of those lots, there may or may not be additional DCCs at the building permit stage. The way we've been implementing the DCC bylaw is the DCC that they would pay at the subdivision stage for one new lot kind of covers 2 dwelling units by default. So if they only built 2 dwelling units on those lots, they wouldn't pay any additional DCCs at the building permit stage. If they built 3 units or 4 units, then they'd be paying for that 3rd and 4th unit at the building permit stage. So it ultimately depends on how many dwelling units they build.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. Now for my nitpicky questions. So 2 questions that I've got right off the get here. The lane B that's on the drawing here on page 44 of our agenda package, do we allow for addressing off of a lane such as this? And the reason I ask is because with lane B going in I'm wondering if that provides opportunities for properties that currently are addressed on Pinnacle to subdivide. It's
Oh.
a hypothetical and there's, 7 different properties there. They'd
yeah.
all have to decide they wanted to do it or not. But I'm wondering if we, would allow for addressing off of Lane B for future subdivision of those properties. And then the other question that I had, I don't see it in here. Again, I understand that this is conceptual for zoning. I don't see a single parking spot for visitors. All of the parking, I think, is in garages. And so I don't know if there's been any conversations about even 1 or 2 surface parking spots. Thanks.
Great. Very good. Please.
I guess to address the parking first, I mean, the lane itself doesn't have any on-street parking. That's just the standard. There's no parking there. We haven't got into the detailed design of the Reef Road extension, but I would imagine there could be some on-street parking there. But in terms of what that looks like, we won't know until we're getting into sort of the engineering review at the subdivision stage. But there's certainly that potential, even though it's a collector road, but there's an opportunity to have that there, perhaps more so because there won't be any driveways on that side. And that's kind of the goal there is like, depending on how many units they're doing, like they'd have to meet their own, the zoning bylaw only requires like the residential parking. It doesn't factor in any visitor parking on each lot. Yeah, so I guess the advantage of the lane, one of the reasons why we're directing them to incorporate it is not so much for subdivision purposes, but it would allow the Binnacle properties to take advantage of their SHMU zoning and build additional dwelling units that have access off of the lane. So it's not necessarily about stimulating subdivision of those properties, but at least allowing access for more dwelling units. Our bylaws don't necessarily allow or want to support primary access off the lane if there's no other street access, but I mean, that's something we could consider, but.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you. And it's just a comment. The only reason I ask is because I know Town of Gibson's does have a fair number of units that are only accessible off of a named lane. And so if that's not something that we currently provide for, I would hope that it's on staff's radar as something that maybe needs to be incorporated in a future subdivision or planning bylaw. Thanks.
Maybe it's named Lane B. Okay, from me, if I may, we need housing, so I very much like the idea of where Councillor Toth is going. I'm curious that the design of the road, I actually, when I first looked at this, thought, why not have the road, we call it Road A, circle around and connect to Binnacle, and which would involve losing the park completely. But I'm okay with that because we've got a number of small parks, and I think it's fair to say they're more trouble for us to maintain than they are a value of for the neighbors. So, I think where I'm going with this is, I think I can speak for council generally that there's interest in this, but I'm not sure, I'm not comfortable saying, yeah, we're good for, for this is perfect. So, I think we're at a place, I mean, the drawing showed lot 11, and at the moment, the proposal is there is no lot 11. So I guess I'd like to give some encouragement to the owner to proceed, but have them come back with more definitive plans that perhaps recognize some of what has been suggested here, whether it's refining how it could be affordable. Maybe though, every unit in here is going to be affordable, by virtue of being smaller. So I've got a bunch of questions, but I'm receptive to the overall concept. Please.
One thing council could consider, I mean, certainly you're able to decide whether or not you want to give all 3 readings or just first reading, et cetera, but we could also still give one or more readings, but make an amendment to the second recommendation so that the additional parkland dedication requirement of 7%, if you want to modify that to open the door to it being, an additional land dedication requirement for the district to acquire, but that it could be used for housing or other purposes. And then at least, we could say, okay, we're willing to say, yep, we could give it 3 readings. We like this a little additional land dedication. We're not certain yet whether we want it for park or for as a district-owned titled lot, but we want to open the door to those options. And that can be settled when we come back for adoption. We're ready to.
Or for second or third.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right way.
I think I'm going to take a stab at some recommendations here based on our conversation and what I just heard from Mr. Hall and my notes here. So I'd like to move recommendation 1, that zoning amendment bylaw 58021/2026 be read a first time. Recommendation 2, that the additional land dedication requirement of 7%, in addition to the 5% statutory park requirement, be endorsed. 3, the recommendation as it's presented there. 4, that staff reach out to Habitat for Humanity and the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society to explore the possibility for Lot 11 to be used for affordable housing. And 5, that this be referred to the Seashell Village Community Association again. Because I get that whatever happened, there was a missed connection. I think we've got time to send this to them again.
Right.
So,
Yep.
thank you.
Good, you've got there. So that's a motion. Is there a seconder? Yep, second, thank you. Please, Counselor Shepherd.
Just a clarification, didn't we have a motion already on the floor for recommending 1 to 3? Or am I
No, I
confused?
don't.
Okay.
Okay, Counselor McLaughlin?
Just to speak to that, thank you through the chair. If you go with that, then you will not have the option for a lane from Binnacle or circulation because you'll already be saying it's already dedicated to something else. So you're kind of, tying your hands that way. To me, the park dedication should be accumulated to be put towards a significant park. Now, I looked at the OCP that we have and it showed that we would have a park across trail there somewhere. It's just a dot, it's a theoretical whatever, but I don't see that we found a place for a park. And I think that, for safety of kids, which already obviously are probably in the social housing, you do need to have these parks for kids to be able to get to quite closely and to play. To not have it, not even have one identified, just shows kind of a lack of neighborhood planning, unfortunately. But I think it's important to take these contributions and put them towards an actual half-decent park, not just use little remnants that are left over from developers that have no use for this piece of land, and then they'll call it a park, which apparently we can't even water according to what they're recommending for water restrictions. So I just don't find it gels. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Rowe, thank you.
Thank you through you. I don't know if I'm signed in twice, but there's a lot of echo. I'll get through. Just to clarify, does Councillor Toss recommendation about the land still leave the opportunity to do park open just for further discussion? Because I'm totally supportive. I think we should be looking at ways to acquire lots that are the district so that we can be part of the conversation. I'm just clarifying that your recommendation doesn't close the door on still being able to choose to do a park.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. If you've got recommendation 2 in front of you, the original staff recommendation, all I've done is move the word park to after 5% statutory. So I'm hoping that's sufficient for staff. That is my intention, to leave it open.
Thanks, makes sense to me. Thank you. I'll be supporting it.
Great, thank you. And this is as presented for first reading, so in theory, lots of things can change going forward. One more comment.
Thank you. Just one more comment. I mean, I moved the motion. Obviously, I'm supportive. I would rather see affordable housing there than asphalt. So that lot 11, I'm not supportive of it for circulation. I'd rather we build on it. So just my own
Yep.
personal thoughts.
No, I was actually contemplating if we were gonna have a road, it would be on the park dedication, the 5%. Because I do support that. And I think that the issue of how to provide amenities for these dense housing complexes is complex in itself. But for the next foreseeable future, we've got a whole lot of land in the area for kids to explore. So anyways, this is for first reading, and yes, I'm supportive of it for first reading. Council, Mr. Hall.
Sorry, just one point, just on the topic of potentially connecting Binnacle and Reef, that was looked at and discarded. That it's not necessary to have it right there. I mean, there's still, again, both roads will go further south into that larger property. So if there's a need to have an east-west connection, there's lots of opportunity for it. So it wasn't necessary to put it in on this particular property. It was a better use to have the lane and then have on the Binnacle front side, again, either all park or potentially a park and a lot, rather than having the road connection through. There can still be a pedestrian connection, but it was unnecessary to have.
Good
the
to
road.
know. Thank you. Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you
last.
thank you through the chair. I'd be willing to support first reading if the developer would come forward with a cross-section showing the topography and the kind of the bulk that the buildings will present, because I don't think we have an idea of what the impact will be that way. And I don't imagine most people are really going to get that, but I think it's important we see it before we accept it. And I don't see that here. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And I think, I don't know if the developer is online, but they'll be obviously able to watch this in the future. So they're hearing all of these comments, and I'm sure they'll consider them. Council, if there's nothing else, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion with the additions? Councilor Rowe, I'm sorry, did you vote? Councilor Rowe? In favor? Thank you. Okay, very good. Thank you. Motion carries. Oh, we did? Oh,
First reading.
that's for first reading.
So we have to give.
I know, yeah. So, okay, council, so we go to page 137 for, which is then before us for first reading based on our recommendation. Sorry, 136. So, Mr. Hall, to put you on the spot, based on this and the modifications around the park and the 5% and 7%, do we need any changes to the bylaw? Or if we're
No.
giving it first reading tonight?
No, the zoning bylaw can remain unchanged.
Great. All right, if somebody would like to move it for first, the seconder for first. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Terrific. All right, council, we go to item 6. Thank you, Mr. Hall. We go to item 6.2. And this is election stuff. Oops, there. So starting on page 141. And Ms. Paulson, anything you want to, any dramatic events since we gave readings? Any questions, council? Thank you. Motion seconded. Any discussion? Right, all in favor? Carried. Okay, okay, wow, thank you. All right, is there a seconder for adoption of the bylaw? I see seconds. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Right, council, so then we go to item 6.3, starting on page, read it, 150. And, okay, so council. Please, Councillor Toth.
Thank you. Two clarification questions for myself, before I'm ready to move it, just in case we need to change anything. On page 178 in the agenda package, 27(2)B states the outcome expected together. I don't understand what the outcome expected together is supposed to be. So that's a question for my own purposes. And then a follow-up, or a second question I had while I've got the microphone is, I don't have a page number, and my apologies, but with regards to the inaugural council meeting, it's usually held in a location other than this. And it specifies in the procedure bylaw that council needs to make a motion to have a council meeting somewhere other than these chambers. And so is that something that we need to make sure we do before our last meeting of the term? Thank you.
Ms. Paulson, do you have any help here?
I'd have to look back at the previous term to see exactly which motions were passed, excuse me, prior to inauguration, but I believe that there is a motion generally confirming the inaugural meeting and any details related to that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yes, and then did you see the reference? It's on page 178, item 27, 2 dash, or sub D.
I believe the word together is just an extra word that was entered in error. So I suspect it's just that the expected outcome is intended to be included in any notice of motion.
So are you suggesting we strike together?
Let's strike together.
That's. Okay. Okay, other comments? I've got some, but I'll let others go ahead. No. Okay, well, I guess I've got a number of issues, and I've raised some of them, and this is why I asked last time to take a couple of weeks to think through this. I'm not sure, I hope council has had a chance to do that. First of all, one of the references I note is that this is a recommendation in here is that we should be reviewing this in the year before the election year. And yet here we are making changes in the election year. I frankly think we're getting ahead of ourselves to do anything at this point. I think there's a number of things in here that appear to be different, perhaps leading the province, and I will get into that in a minute. I mean, I think, well, perhaps I'll start with that. The proposal that question period and that council reports be stopped for 6 months prior to the nomination period. That is roughly March 1st. So that is not something that I think is effective. We still have a job to do between now and the election. And I think in terms of transparency and fulfilling our duty to the public, they should be able to be here to ask us questions. And the same thing goes for council reports. So I'd be interested to know if you've done, staff have reviewed precedents for the various things that are proposed in here. And why, for example, 6 months has been chosen when I believe we have 6 weeks at the moment. So perhaps I'll ask for a comment on that one first. I'm not sure who's taking that.
Yes, the details of precedent are already included in the report, and the decisions are purely political as far as staff are concerned. So it is a staff recommendation at this time.
Right, so there's, off the top of my head, there's Kamloops. Help me, I'm trying to remember what the other precedents are for the 6 months.
I don't believe anybody else has a 6-month precedent, but there are examples of pauses built into some of these activities.
Right, but I think the ones that I'm aware of are only a handful, 2 or 3, and they're all 6-week proposals. So, Council, I just draw your attention to that. This is a very significant change compared to what most other municipalities appear to be doing. Please, sir.
Just a comment on the council reports. I mean, Town of Gibson's did away with them, if not shortly after the election, then in the early start of 2023. So like I just went and looked at a couple of their agendas. They don't do council reports. One thing I did notice in reading the bylaw is that your SCRD reports will continue to come, although they'll have to be in a written form going forward if this bylaw passes. So, just a couple comments there.
Yep. Yeah, no, I was going to get to the SCRD, the inconsistency perhaps there, but I'm just, I don't see the need for this. I think, as I said earlier, it's not allowing us to do, whether it's the question period from the public or the council reports. I did say previously I wasn't a fan of written council reports simply because we tend to, we've evolved into talking about what we did yesterday as part of our report, and to require it to be in writing and submitted into the agenda package means that we would be potentially, well, certainly 5 or 6 days late. So I'm still not in favor of eliminating that. I think the discussion of whether we have council reports is an interesting one and something that's quite different than stopping them for 6 months ahead of ahead of an election. Yep. I think I also should note, it seems that some of the proposals are an effort to remove authorities currently held by the mayor. One is appealing the decision for a delegation. And I don't understand that because in part, if it was to go require a vote of council, which is what the motion or the recommendation says, somebody who wants to do a delegation would be held off for, I believe it's a month after they've been refused by staff. So I think we're injecting a level of bureaucracy that is unwarranted. I think we should be encouraging more participation rather than less, and so I'm a fan of delegations. I'd also, I guess I'd ask on page 184, Ms. Paulson, section 43.2 has been crossed out that the mayor may be appointed as a voting member to all committees. And I'd like to understand why that's been removed. Please.
The intention with removing references to the mayor specifically is simply to create the opportunity for council to make decisions on behalf of council rather than delegating one individual member of the council assembly. The council is a body as a whole, so the intention was simply to make all the decisions come from the council body.
Well, but isn't that still part of 43-1? No, I beg your pardon. It's not. Okay, well, I don't see the need for it, but I respect that it's staff's recommendation. Okay, and I guess, so in summary, I think we've got work to do, council. I think that this is something that is worthy of much further consideration. I certainly don't support the 6 months or this cessation of council reports, or for that matter, council reports in writing. I would welcome a discussion of what is a council report intended to be. I think there's been some, perhaps we haven't been very specific, and perhaps I could have been stronger in trying to hold us to what I understand are the council reports, but I'd like to see that as perhaps a separate discussion. So, at this point, I'm much more in favor of sending this either back to staff for more explanation of some of the changes and why it's considered best practice elsewhere. Because I think we need to ensure we deliver on what is important for the community. We're here to serve the community, and part of that is interacting with them in this forum, not just through emails or social media or conversations. And I remain of the view that this should actually probably be tabled for the new council to consider. So, won't make a motion at this point. Looked like you were ready for something.
Yeah, I'm going to recommend adoption of the recommendation on page 150. I mean, I think staff are trying to follow through on the recommendations from George Cuff and the mediator appointed by the province. So staff have followed through and introduced it. I just don't want to drag these things out further than they have. I don't think it's introducing anything that's revolutionary. To the chair's point, the new council may change it again, but I think we're closing a loop here, so that's why I'm recommending adoption. Thanks.
So that's a motion. Is there a seconder? So I'd be interested, where is the 6 months in any of the recommendations we received from Mr. Cuff or Mr. Poole? Please.
Maybe it isn't, but I'm just personally supportive of sort of dampening down any potential electioneering that goes along with the election coming up. So is it going to dampen participation in meetings? I doubt it. People still write into us by email. So canceling we don't have an overwhelming number of people who do ask questions at the end anyway during the term. Questions tend to come in by email. That's where I see, and none of that is touching on this or stopping that. So that's why, 6 months, I'm fine with it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Other comments, Councillor Toth?
Thank you. There was reference in there to, if there is information that comes to council that can come by way of a notice of motion for receipt. It's a little clunky, I think, but that's okay. To be perfectly honest, I think I want to give you credit where credit's due, your Monday meetings where you do make yourself available to the public. I think is a far more useful tool than seeing what kind of a crowd we get out to a council meeting on any given night. And if there is anything that comes up, there's nothing in here that, precludes notices of motion right up until the election time. So we can still, move concerns forward without it being part of the question period at the end of the meeting that we don't televise anyways. Thanks.
Okay, other comments? Please, Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, I think there's general support from council based on the work that has been provided to us in the interviews of council over a number of months with not only George Cuff, but the provincial appointment. So I think it would behoove us to support the documents and or the changes that are presented in here. I'm not a big fan, and I will say again, and I've indicated to other members of council, I'm not a big fan of making decisions and or legislation based on notices of motion. I think that decisions and or discussion and or presentations and reports should come from staff members based on council motions previous to that. I'm not a big fan of notice of motions. That's why I don't always support them. So I have issues with that one, that it's being allowed all the way up to election time, because it could be another form of electioneering. But I'm fine with the information being presented to this council. This council seems to be supportive of a number of two documents that have come to us from outside sources that have recommended some changes based on some sort of studied dysfunction within the council decision making over the last number of years. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I will just remind council that as best I know, there are 3 jurisdictions that constrain question period to 6 weeks before the election. We're suggesting 6 months. That'll make us the only one in the province that has done that. And I don't think we're meeting, whether we're asked questions regularly or not. It's the opportunity for people to come here and ask questions. And I think that's a very important piece. And to support that is certainly not something I'm prepared to do. Yes, Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, through the chair. I like what's being proposed here. I think it is important to have it clearly laid out, a lot more depth than what we had going in terms of rules and fairness. I think it's important for people that might be wanting to run for election or re-election, but especially for election, that they know this is the basis on which we will operate. Being in a chamber, we're in a chamber council. A chamber is kind of like a sacred space. There should be a lot of humbleness and a lot of respect for each other. And I think that's almost like an architectural term, you know? You really do have to realize you're in this enclosed space to talk to each other as equals, essentially, and to have open debate that's fair, that the public can appreciate. And I think we're only finally getting to that point. But I think this new procedural bylaw will help, because we've tried to update it in a little bit, but this is quite a comprehensive review. And I don't want to see another council have to go through so many governance issues. It's just been a whole huge layer of a burden, I think, on all of us. And so I don't want to see the next council have to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. I literally just checked with Mayor White, and Town of Gibson's doesn't allow questions as part of their proceedings. And they haven't since the same time they updated their procedure bylaw at the start of the term. So there's no question period down there either.
And that's on the same point as you mentioned earlier about council reports. If we want to do it comprehensively, that's a different discussion than shutting it down on the basis that we have an election in 6 months and 45 days or whatever. Can I seek clarification, please, Ms. Polson? I guess, what is the public notification period? How does that work in respect of this bylaw?
Oh, we will need to advertise in the paper for 2 consecutive weeks and post notice on our public notice board outside the municipal hall.
Right. So assuming there's once 3 readings are given, then we go to public notification. Okay, thank you. All right. Anything else, council?
Oh, thank you. You know, the question period in 6 months, I'm a little uncomfortable with. It might be too long, but I really think that there was a lot of work put into these recommendations, not only by, as I indicated, the 2 consultants that were brought in, unfortunately, to the District of Sechelt to look at the situation, but also council and staff's reaction to those 2 reports and or questions and or presentations. So what I see tonight is council very much in support of the changes presented. So I have to support the will of council in this case, although I may be uncomfortable with a couple of pieces. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? I'm opposed. The motion carries. Council, we've got the minutes of us in 7.1 on page 196. Whoops. Page 186. Who would like to move? It's your pleasure, Council. Councilor Rowe. Bell, sorry, you're sitting in Councilor Rowe's old chair. Yeah. Okay, you're moving. What's your motion? Yeah, you see, she did. Your motion is what? Oh. Well, you're making a motion. I just want to understand what you're moving. Okay, so your motion is to give 3 readings to bylaw number 504-3, 2026. Okay, thank you. Seconder? 56805. All right, wrong page. Yep. That one. 56805, 2026, 3 readings, second. Second, all in favor? Opposed? I'm opposed. The motion carries. That's what it is. All right, council. So now I believe we can go to 7.1, the minutes. Any concerns? We did 3 readings all at once. Okay, so everybody there? The minutes are on page 196. Please, Councillor Shepherd.
I'll move adoption of the minutes, 196.
Okay, and our seconder? All in favor? Carried. And minutes of the March 25th Committee of the Whole on 203. Nope. Yeah. Okay, yes, Councillor Shepherd.
I'll move adoption of the minutes of March 25th.
So endorsement of the Committee of the Whole meeting and the recommendations 2 and 3. Second. Visitation. Second. Right. Any discussion? Was there something you wanted to?
I think Councillor McLaughlin and I are struggling with the same thing here on page 205. We voted against recommendation 3. I recognize that this is, exploration and all of that. I made my comments at the last meeting, so I'm fine with it moving forward for now. Thanks.
Yes, because we're just, I see, yeah, because we're endorsing, right? Okay, so a motion is to endorse the minutes and, or endorse the recommendations and adopt the minutes. All in favor? Carried. All right. So we go to item 9 and the SCRD reports. And I did see an email, but I did not, at 6 minutes or something to the hour, I did not read it. So
Yeah, I sent it in at 5:58, so all of council's got it. My apologies that it didn't go out earlier so that it could have formed part of the agenda package, but I'll try and touch on the highlights real quick for those that don't have it in front of them, or that didn't get a chance to read it because it was very late coming forward. Committee of the Whole, March 19th, approval was given to develop a water conservation plan with specific timelines of priorities and action items. I've circulated the report that was pulled from that meeting for council. Electoral area services, I think the important things to highlight, there was support for some community-driven renovations to the Cooper's Green Hall. They're looking to sort of improve lighting, expand the kitchen area, fix up the building. The SCRD is also going to be transferring about $62,000 in held community donations for that project over to the Community Association to help fund that project. Madeira Park Elementary is getting a new childcare center. And so there was a development variance permit that needed to come forward for parking for that project, and that one's been in the works for long enough that there was a building code change that came through. And so they had to send the modular building back into factory for modifications to meet new accessibility standards. So it's getting there. The other one was a development variance permit for works in Cliff Gilker Park to allow for the installation of the new bridges by the community forest. It's kind of weird that the SCRD has to give itself a development variance permit for project work in a park, but here we are. That's those are the laws we work under. Committee of the Whole, March 26th, Half Moon Bay Fire Hall 2 is at end of life. It was an old building when they renovated it in 2002. And so it's at end of life. Staff are actually recommending basically a Quonset hut structure to replace it on sort of a 5 to 10-ish year timeframe. And the idea was that there was originally $250,000 that was budgeted for design work of a new replacement fire hall, but it was going to cost like $9 million to build it. And so for $250,000, staff have figured that they can demolish the existing building and procure and install a new temporary facility that'll last long enough to do the long-range planning. City of Vancouver has 2 of them now, I understand, including one on Hastings Street. Tassus did one, Montreal's using one as well. And it's one of those things that when they're done with the structure and they develop a long-range plan, they can reuse the structure either somewhere else within the SCRD or they can do asset disposal on it. And then Regional Hospital District, same day, $1 million was approved to be provided to the Home for Hospice project, which is the Mossy Rock Permanent Home for Hospice. That requires them to receive provincial designation as a hospital facility. They've reduced their ask by $500,000, and staff are confident in the ability to fund it from reserves without putting anything else at risk for the foreseeable future. And then the SCRD is also moving down the path of adopting the BC government's provincial building permit hub, which I guess a number of jurisdictions across the province are looking at implementing. So the idea is that it provides a standardized interface for jurisdictions. We use Cloud Permit. I think Gibson's is also using Cloud Permit. So a question that I have for staff through you is whether our staff are exploring this permit hub process. And then I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't know if we want to put people on the spot. Rhetorical question, or you looking for an answer, Mr. Allen?
Thank you. Yes, certainly we've explored it. The province has reached out. Discussions have been had. At this point, we're happy with Cloud Permit and we'll carry on as is. However, it might become mandatory or so common that it only makes sense that we must switch to it. But at present, we're pleased with Cloud Permit. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anything from you on that?
On a couple of things that were mentioned, just a couple of things to mention. Hospice, great support. They've offered us to, I think, update us and or show us the building. And when they first came to us and I was excited about the idea and opportunity, I had indicated that I'd like to go see it. And the board then went within a month to see it. So what I would suggest maybe is, and I could talk to the chair if we have to later, is that maybe some of the councils can go look if we get an invite again on an update to go look at the building, just to see what it will look like and to see its location and the really nice setting that it's in. So I just think it's a really important thing, an idea that came forward and that we quickly supported for good reasons for our community as people near end of life. And so, and the other thing is I hope it frees up some long-term beds. Some in some of our facilities, 4 to 8 is what I'm hoping. And because that's really important, because that's a big issue. Much like, sort of funny, we're grappling with long-term beds and daycare, each end of the age spectrum in our community. All about not having enough provincial services on the Sunshine Coast. So that's something to talk about is terms of us touring the facility. The other one I wanted to mention is the fire hall issue. I remember when that fire hall that they're looking at making changes to was brand new. And it shows that the original fire hall that they built is in a odd part of their community where they have to have a second one. Seashelt, on the other hand, meets the guidelines of distance from fire hall to the edges of the community to fight fires. And so our centrally located fire hall, we only need one so far. And they have to provide 2 because the community's spread out. And the original fire hall was at one end, not in the middle like ours. So kudos, I guess it's the village. So the village provided the fire hall a number of years ago, but in a sense, I'm glad they put one there and they kept it there. I guess everyone knows where the original fire hall was, right? It's right next to the Telus building, if anybody wonders. Yeah. And because you can
Okay.
see the big stack, the big hose stack, if anyone knows. And it's just centrally located and it's really good for Seashell. Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you for the history lesson, Counselor Inkster. Why don't you continue with your council reports?
Yeah, just a quick, just one thing, just wanted to mention. Oh, you have a question? Oh, okay. Oh, Donna.
For you.
Okay,
Yeah,
Through
sure.
the chair.
right, please.
About the hospice, my understanding as well is they also have a couple of rooms that are designated to family members that are able to stay there while their family members, our friends are there. So that's incredible addition to this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit before, and I hope the information is clearly available to this council, what that house in Roberts Creek will provide, because it's so important. And it sounds like maybe the federal government is interested in the building as well, because Councillor Bell's interested, so that's a good sign. But yes, 2 rooms, thanks.
All right, thank you. Councillor
Yeah,
Raffat.
not much I was gonna mention just one thing, the remuneration committee that I keep mentioning. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is that what they're considering is because what we're kind of talking about is because salaries are and or stipends at a certain level, do you go up, do you go down, is looking at barriers to entry in terms
So
of
remuneration committee for
the school board.
School.
Yeah, just because I mentioned a couple times before. So yeah, sure, I'll remind council of that particular thing. And what they're looking at, just to let council know and staff as an example, so one of the things we're giving a lot of discussion and consideration is barriers to political office rather than monetary. And that's the big thing we're focusing on. And this is a consideration for us and or staff when we look at our own discussions with our own staff is the fact that many people are the sandwich generation. So not only do they need support they need childcare, but they also need elder care. So that's one of the things we're talking about as part of the kind of remuneration piece.
I see.
In
All
order
right.
to limit the barriers to public office. Thanks.
Right. And that's, I guess, technically part of your SCRD report, because you're there as the SCRD nominee,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it's just,
Good
I
to
didn't
know.
want to confuse council doing as part of the SCRD, but I just want to.
Yep.
Council, thanks.
Right, thank you. We'll go to Councillor Shepherd, then Councillor Rowe, Councillor Bell, Councillor McLaughlin, and Councillor Hoff.
Just 2 things. I did fill in for Councillor Inkster on the Council of the Whole for the SCRD. Really enjoyed it on March 19th. And we did have a meeting with the mayor that a mayor attended with the new president of Capilano University. They're trying to sort out what to do with the facility in Seashelt. Very interesting conversation and a follow-up meeting the next day with someone who's interested in sponsoring or holding some adult education courses there. And it is link up with Langara College. They seem to be interested. So that's moving along fairly quickly. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you. Counselor Bell and I attended a CAP meeting yesterday. They have been given notice that they've received funding for, I think, 3 more years. So it had been put on hold there about 6 months ago, and we were directed not to start any new projects that would require ongoing funding, but funding has come in, and so they've started the needle cleanup program again. They have a dynamic young person doing it. They're looking at expanding it to 3 to 3.5 days downtown, including out to the dance studio. So that's great news. It's the 10-year anniversary in a couple weeks of the toxic drug crisis being declared a public health emergency. So there's going to be a week of activities, speakers, movies, music, etc. So you'll see that on social media. Encouraged to come out to some of those. And then today, Councillor Toth and I, along with Mayor White and Kelly Foley, went to meet with the Together We Can leadership group in Vancouver and see some of their facilities there. This is the group that has passed, or their board has chosen the Lower Sunshine Coast as the next place that they would like to come and provide services. So they will be here towards the end of April to meet with government leaders, healthcare leaders, community groups, that sort of thing, to tell everyone about them and hear what we think we need from a community level to begin their public engagement. So that was a good day, and those are my 2 things. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bell?
Yes, I'll make it quick. I basically attended the meetings that, not the same one as Councillor Shepherd, but a meeting around with CAPU. And the other one is with Councillor Rowe around the CAT meeting. And I just want to encourage people to look at the events that are coming up. There's 4 different events that they're doing from April 17th, I believe it is, actually the 15th. And just, I'll make sure that I will send that poster out to council as well. So you have a copy of all the events. There's some really good looking events there. So happy to see them back in action.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin?
Thank you, through the chair. I did mention that I attended the Sechelt Community Association AGM. And it was kind of nice in a way because they had quite a few questions, things that they sort of heard about. So I was able to fill them in on some of the details so they didn't have to go, oh, well, we don't know, how are we going to find out? So was a nice kind of back and forth conversation and filling in. And they had fairly good attendance, better than other years. So that's kind of a good sign. Also, I've been kind of approached by some folks at Green Court concerned about the amount of garbage that they're getting in their collection area for, garbage and recycling. Maybe some of it's due to the construction. Maybe they say some people are coming in there and just dumping garbage, and also that they don't have very good recycling. So I said, well, they're saying you must have a bylaw about that to stop that horrible situation from happening. And I said, well, I don't think so, but I thought I'd ask. So I thought, well, I can bring it up. Let's ask, do we have a bylaw about, stuff getting mismanaged that way? I don't know if they want to answer that right now.
No, the council reports, I think,
Yeah.
are what we've been
So,
doing and
yeah.
not. So,
Anyway, I guess they can ask, but I don't know. I don't think we do, but still, it's an issue. The village takes a lot of garbage from people year round, especially in the summer. So that's something maybe the RD can manage some of the recycling better if they could focus on apartments getting better recycling, because I think the time has come where we're having more
Oh,
apartments and need to
yep.
do that. And then, good news is that the pool, the hot tub, et cetera, will be open on Friday nights now. They've expanded that. So I think that's, yeah, re-expanded. It's a welcome, opportunity for people to enjoy the facility on a Friday night, which, you know, you're welcome to, I'll probably be there in the hot tub. That's where most of my conversations take place, honestly.
Okay.
So,
Garbage bins and green court.
well, I don't get it too close to the garbage. So that's a good thing. And just a point that the farmer's market will be opening, on the street at Cowrie. I think Alton, I'll try and be there too. So that's something to look forward to. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Toth.
Thank you. It's not just downtown that people are dumping their garbage. I've got a park at the end of my street that the garbage cans are regularly stuffed full, and there's not that many people coming through the park. So, my recollection, the SCRD already bans recyclables from the waste stream. The problem is enforcement. We'd have to hire 10 more people just to audit garbage, right? And so District of Seashelt, I think, manages the garbage for, you know, residential as well as apartment buildings. ICI, so industrial, commercial, and institutional, continues to be a problem because, you know, with the recycling program, Recycle BC funds it for residential, but they don't fund it for ICI. And the province is dragging their heels on doing anything different with it. Yeah, attended that meeting with Councillor Shepherd, with Langara. I wasn't gonna name names, but here we are. They're really excited to meet with community and meet with representatives of community groups to find out what programming would be well received here in Seashelt. So we've started a list of organizations that they should engage with, and you know, if anybody else has thoughts, welcome to hear them. Library board AGM last week. They have one board member that termed out, so you can only serve a maximum of 8 years on the library board before you've got to take a year off. And they also welcomed a brand new member to the library board. So really good background for this new board member. I think it'll be interesting. And because they were onboarding somebody new, they realized they needed to develop a package for new board members, so sort of an orientation package. That's really all I've got to report. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. For me, there was a meeting of the Horseshoe Bay Terminal Reconstruction Group. I think there were 3 non-BC Ferries people at the meeting, so presumably we can assume the reconstruction is going on without too many hiccups. Note that Mayor White has started a ferry advisory committee concept, and he's encouraging others to join. And so if anybody's interested, I believe you reach out to the town for that. There you go, Councillor Inkster, something new for you.
Yeah, I know, because I'm looking for something, but I think we should both be on. Because there's
So
nobody here.
this is my report, so we'll just take, yeah. Yep, we've heard about CapU. I just offer I think they said they had a $40 million shortfall in their operating results, and they attributed a lot of that to the lack of international students, which is much lower than expected across Canada, I hear. And they're trying to figure out how to keep training available locally. But I think it's fair to say the building is in need of significant upgrades or maintenance, and that's a problem for them. And want to thank our MP, Patrick Weiler, for his ongoing assistance with the Keep Families Together initiative. We're continuing to push on that, and I won't repeat what I've said in the past, but it is an important initiative for the community. Elder College has been going strong, and I had the pleasure of attending part of the session today where the discussion was on world security. And want to recognize Colonel Keith Maxwell for stepping up. He's doing 4 sessions over the next month. If you can take 2 hours on a Wednesday, it was sold out, so book ahead. And we talked about the Farmers and Artisans Market starting. Thanks to Councillor Toth for misringing John Bell's bell. But it's a great tradition to start the market. Community connections we've heard about for April 18th. Please sign up and please attend. We need the public out. And last but not least, happy Easter to everybody. Have a good long weekend. And I'd like to say let's adjourn, but we've got 3 or 4 other items on the agenda. Council, we go to page 207. And how do you wish to proceed? Come on. No, I agree.
I mean, I could.
Oh, well,
Chair.
no, I'll move it. That's fine.
Yeah, and I'll second.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion, anybody, about providing a letter of support? All in favor? Carried.
Yeah, I hope we write a really good letter. We need that program to continue.
Well, they've given us, yeah. Okay, great. We'll go to 208, which is Davis Bay, Selma Park. I always get it wrong. Davis Bay, Wilson Creek, Selma Park Community Association. And I guess council, how do you, please?
I think Councillor Toth, sorry, through the chair, Councillor Toth has an idea for a motion.
Thanks, Councillor Shepherd. I appreciate that this has come to us out of sequence with our budget process. I think it's probably too late for us to do, it's too late for us to do anything for this year in terms of constructing improvements. But I think there's an opportunity with this much runway for staff to sort of investigate and then report back for 2027's budget process. I do have a motion. I've provided it to staff at 6:15, so my apologies for not circulating it to everybody. But that'd be a motion that staff investigate the potential for a phased Davis Bay Seawalk lighting project, including any suitable existing infrastructure, and report back to council in time for budget 2027 deliberations.
Thank you. Is that a second? Right, and then comment, please?
Yeah, when people that may have been around then may remember that the original seawall work was done in concert with the Ministry of Transportation. It wasn't just a Seashell project, and I believe it was 50-50. And obviously it was to deal with the fact that the highway was very busy there, and District of Seashell had an idea to make it nice there when they made the improvements to the road and pedestrian safety. I think there's no reason why, as part of this discussion, we don't talk to MOTI. They also owe us, in a sense, some work on the other side of the road with some drainage issues along there that they promised for a number of years. I would hope if we have the discussion with them like we should on some of these issues, that they don't say, well, we're doing this one over here, because we've been waiting, 6 years for that. So it's not like we owe them anything, but we're certainly thankful. But that should be part of our discussion, to look at the drainage issue that near the wharf coming back towards Seashell on the right-hand side, but also look at the lighting issue and sharing some costs with them, and make the argument that it's a safety issue, not only for vehicles, but also for pedestrians and families and users of the seawall, vehicle and otherwise. And I think that should be part of our discussion with them. They should be part of the solution. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. I'm remiss. I see Mr. Havies is here. Are you, and I guess Mr. Parfit, was there, since you're here, did you have anything you wanted to offer, or? Or Councillor Rowe will need.
Sorry, Your Worship. No, the report that we put forward, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. Apologize for the mix-up in the years. But it is going to take a bit of investigation. I'm quite convinced that that first 450 meters can get cleaned out, the underground conduits that are in there that were put in at the seawall construction. I'm sure there's dirt and gravel and stuff in there, but I think that can be attended to fairly readily, I hope.
Right.
Big ones, that other 375 meters from Wesley Road down to the washrooms, that's going to require undergrounding and, you know, but I'm
So
sure.
it's
the
fair to
staff
say
can-
there's short-term, I think, thanks, Ray.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Parfit, sorry. I think it's fair to say wrapped in this as short-term, we need some stuff done, just almost maintenance stuff. And then maybe there's the bigger stuff like drainage, which is quite a separate project. Okay. Where do we stand with the dock, the pier as well? Do we have any, like, what is our cycle for? I'm not sure, I guess, Mr. Yates? No? But, yeah. The microphone, please. I'm asking where do we stand on the cycle of maintenance and updates or whatever for the dock, Davis Bay Pier?
Sorry, what's the concern?
I'm asking where do we stand? Like, do we have a cycle for maintenance of the pier?
Nothing particularly special. Is there something you're interested in?
No, I'm asking like, every 5 years, do we do a marine assessment of the pier or?
No,
No, we don't.
no, we
Okay.
don't.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure how this fits in with the lighting. Sorry, I'm not making the
Well,
connection if I'm
it's all
sounding
part of-
strange.
It's all part of the maintaining our assets, so that's what I'm curious about.
Well, this is a new project though.
Yep. Yes, please, Councillor Top.
Thank you. I'm moving this forward because I think it's something I
Yep.
have heard from residents down in that area a few times over the last couple of years. And I think the last time I spoke to a resident about it, I said, connect with the community association and get them on board. And well, you know, here we are. So I better put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. I support what Councillor Inkster is getting at with drainage. And we know that the lighted crosswalk there perhaps should be a signalized crosswalk. And we've got subsidence issues. Like it could turn into a $10 million project if we're not careful. I'm just looking for us to investigate what could be hopefully a fairly simple win for us as a community. I also don't want this to be hung up waiting for Mott to get their act together. So, thanks.
I concur. Councillor McLaughlin?
Thank you, through the chair. I'm just wondering if we might want to consider solar lighting along there instead of all that heavy underground stuff, possibly. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so in terms of your motion, what do you mean? You said the budget, in time for budget deliberations. We deliberate for about 6 months on our budget. So is there clarity or?
No, in time for budget 2027 deliberations. So, I mean,
Okay.
it's too late to deliberate for 2026's budget. But I don't want this to be a 2047 budget item. So that's what I'm getting
We
at.
need it as part of, we need the report and the, whatever the Class C, in time for the capital, yeah. In time for that, the early part of the budget. All right, thank you. That's understood. Anything else, council? Okay, all in favor? Carried. So council, then we go to page 211. And this is from the ICE-T, the Island Coastal Economic Trust. I don't have any insights. I was not able to attend the last meeting. Councillor Toth?
Thank you. I mean, I was at the last meeting on behalf of the regional district. This is a bit of a slow-moving disaster in that when ICE-T was originally founded, they were given a sum of money and told to spend it. Whereas the other trusts were basically allowed to invest it and then reinvest or distribute the proceeds of those investments. all the background information indicates that Ice-T was told specifically, spend this money. And so they've reached the point, they had a $10 million top up a few years ago from the provincial government. And they're at a point now where that $10 million is going to be exhausted by the end of 2027. And so they're looking for support to get it incorporated into the provincial 2027 budget to recapitalize Ice-T. They're also taking this opportunity to put forward a business case for a transformational change in how the thing is governed. They're looking to bring First Nations in. They spent about a year doing consultations with all of the First Nations within the Ice-T region. And it's unanimous that First Nations are interested in participating in this and in being part of the decision-making for how these investments are made in community. And I think that requires legislative changes, which the province has indicated may come forward in the fall session. But the province is also trying to see if they can wrap up changes to the other trusts at the same time. And the problem is there that the other trusts have done no consultation. And so the concern from Ice-T is that by trying to ram something through for all of the trusts, the initiative may fall apart in the legislature. So they're seeking support from local governments, one, for recapitalization, and two, for some transformational legislation on how the trust is governed.
Please, Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of flaws with how Ice-T, Vancouver Island piece, Vancouver Island coastal side was set up. One is that the amount of money they were given. Other trusts were given larger amounts of money in the interior, and some spent a large portion of it. Others invested it and were able to use the annual dividends for projects, as we know. The problem with Ice-T is it wasn't given a large amount of money originally, probably a recognition of the relatively stronger economy along the coast. That doesn't take into account what's happened in the northern Vancouver Island and some other coastal communities like Paul River when the mill closes down. So we certainly need to put in a good lobby to not only encourage the province to continue to fund economic development in these areas, but have larger ongoing funds that are committed to these areas due to the economic problems in the coastal communities. Thanks.
Can I get a motion?
I'll move that the mayor be authorized to sign a letter of support on behalf of council seeking permanent funding and updated legislation for the Island Coastal Economic Trust.
Seconded. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. All right, what everybody loves, we'll move to 215 and Broome. So, Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, Scotch broom continues to be a real problem in the community. We've got groups every season asking where we can burn this material in Seashelt, and we have no option. The only sort of working option I've heard of is in Half Moon Bay, where someone has property owners allowed his land to be used for compiling. People bring the material, and then the Half Moon Bay Fire Department comes on to burn it. So we've spent a lot of time investigating what entity could buy a burner. That's fallen through. It's too expensive. So I think, again, Councillor Toth has an idea about changing our bylaws and communicating with the Seashell Fire Department to allow it to be burnt within the community. Thanks.
So can I just, in terms of this business in front of us, do you have, between you, perhaps, have you worked out another resolution?
I do have a motion drafted. My apologies, Councillor Shepherd. I'm not sure that I'm committed to this motion that I've drafted. And the reason is they're looking for a solution right now for 2026. And the problem is everywhere else on the coast that allows for burning, that window opened today. And so we don't allow backyard burning. We haven't since 2014 or 2015, other than campfires. And in order for us to move something forward for them to burn, it wouldn't be able to happen for this spring. Like, we would need to amend bylaws, we'd need the fire department. I have a motion here to look at the process change, but it's not something that would help them for this year. One thing I know Broom Busters has talked about is actually chipping it instead. And so that's something that if you get it early enough in the season, you can chip it, leave it in place. It does become a fire hazard eventually. But it's an option that might be available to residents coast-wide right now. The email that's here, including your response, I did respond again, but the SCRD permits broom to be taken to the landfill and declared as an invasive species if there's no flowers, no seed pods, and if it's bagged in clear plastic bags, which is prohibitive. I accept that. And Broom Busters has identified province-wide, there is a lot of jurisdictions that have done it that way. And it's resulted in people just not bothering because it's just not worth the hassle to bag it in clear bags, just to bury it with a bulldozer. I'm open to having staff explore what it would look like to allow backyard burning for invasive species again. I don't know why we did away with it in the first place. Perhaps Councillor Inkster or yourself have the background on that. So I'm going to hold off on making a motion at the moment. Thanks.
Oh, Councillor Shepherd, a motion and then, or sorry, Councillor Shepherd.
Sorry, I'll bounce back. I understand that's, it's certainly a process I'd like to put in motion. But in terms of immediate work, I just wonder if staff could communicate with the Sechelt Fire Department and say, look, here's our immediate problem. We're at the season right now. Is there any way they could proceed? I think you were mentioning using their Mason Road could people for a limited time, 2 months, bring the material to that yard and they could have a program of burning it? I know they'll come back and say, we can't because of the bylaw, but maybe we can do something quickly to allow it this year for a 2-month basis. But at least let's have the conversation with the Sechelt Department, the fire department.
So that's a motion asking staff to consult with the fire department on what you just said. Okay, is there a second? Okay. Discussion on that motion? No?
I mean,
Okay.
it's not, I can't add to it. there's some ancillary information
Okay.
that's important.
Well, if it's to the motion, by all means.
Yeah, well, we often don't speak to the motion as a council, but we speak around the issue. But I'll add just a couple pieces. The burning bylaws were brought in because there was a number of people in the community, and this is a community-driven initiative that had asthma and or breathing issues. That's why we have burning bylaws were brought. We have an older community and some younger people with breathing issues. That's why those laws were brought in. But we did create windows of burning within those bylaws, and I think they still exist. The Sechelt Fire Department, there's no windows? Well, we should talk about that. Yeah, we should talk about that. The Sechelt Fire Department has talked about, I think staff is aware, that has talked about practice burns on Scotch broom. So they would look at doing, practicing with Scotch broom, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, they can only do so much, right? But we could probably identify some areas every year, right? To be practice burned by the department, because it's an interesting fire because of the way it lights, right? It's like an oil product, so, yeah.
So, okay, so can we address the motion and then if you want to talk about something else? To do with okay.
I'm wondering, I noticed some controlled burns going on right now on Purpose Bay Hillside. I don't know if it's First Nations, but so there might be some way in controlled burns to burn that stuff. Because even for Fire Smart, maybe check with Fire Smart, they're going to do controlled burns of some sort. It's just too dangerous, too much for them. Okay, sounds like a good waste to energy program.
Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor? Carried. Anything else on this topic, Counselor Shepherd? It's enough for now? Yeah, yeah. Okay, in that case, we'll, motion to adjourn and seconded, all in favor? We're adjourned. And questions? Please, Diana, come on up.